Close your eyes gently now, dear listener, and let the day's light dim like the fading glow of a lantern at bedtime. Picture yourself floating on a warm, lazy current, drifting back to the 1940s in a sleepy Florida town called Daytona Beach. The air is thick with the sweet tang of salt and pine, and the sun hangs low, painting the sky in soft pastels. It was here, on October 29, 1942, that a boy named Robert Norman Ross entered the world, though the world would come to know him simply as Bob, the painter of happy little trees. Bob's early days were wrapped in the simple rhythms of a modest family home. His father, a carpenter named Jack, filled the air with the scent of fresh-cut wood, his hands steady as they shaped tables and chairs from rough planks. Young Bob sat nearby, wide-eyed, absorbing the quiet magic of making something from nothing. His mother, Viola, was the heart of the home, a woman with a voice like a melody, weaving stories of adventure into the evening air as fireflies danced outside the window. The house was small, with creaky floors and walls that let in the night's chorus of crickets. Money was tight, but love was abundant, like wildflowers spilling over a fence. Bob learned early that joy could be found in the everyday. The way sunlight slanted through the kitchen window, turning dust motes into golden stars, or the first sip of cool well water after a hot afternoon. As we settle into this peaceful cradle of his story, feel the soft sand of the beach cradling your thoughts. Let your breath slow, matching the gentle rise and fall of distant waves. And as sleep begins to whisper, we'll wander a little deeper into the boy's first explorations. Bob's connection to nature wasn't just a casual friendship, it was a profound, unspoken language. He'd often wander away from the scent of sawdust into the lush Florida woods behind his home. There, among the cypress knees and whispering pines, he found his first true studio. He didn't have canvases or fancy paints back then. Instead, his canvas was the world around him. He'd trace the shapes of clouds in the sky with his finger, study the intricate patterns of a spider's web glistening with morning dew, and watch how the light played hide-and-seek among the leaves. He even had a few furry friends who became his audience. A little squirrel he named Peapod would often perch on a branch above him, chattering away as if offering artistic advice. A stray, three-legged cat would sometimes curl up at his feet, purring a gentle rhythm. It was in these quiet moments that Bob discovered a fundamental truth. Every living thing, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, had its own story and its own special place in the world. He learned to see the beauty in imperfection, the gnarled branch of an old oak tree, the slightly crooked flight of a butterfly. This deep empathy for nature would one day become the soul of his art. Back in the workshop, his father Jack noticed his son's quiet fascination. One afternoon, he handed Bob a small, smooth block of wood and a piece of charcoal. "See what you can do with this," he said with a gentle smile. Bob's small fingers, still learning their dexterity, carefully drew a picture of a tall, proud pine tree he had seen on his walk. It wasn't perfect, but it was his. Holding it up, he felt a spark ignite within him, a feeling of creation that was both powerful and deeply calming. He realized he could capture the feelings the woods gave him and hold them in his hand. This simple act was a seed planted in the fertile ground of his young imagination. The scent of pine and charcoal, the feel of rough wood beneath his fingertips, the quiet encouragement of his father, these were the first brushstrokes of the masterpiece his life would become. He didn't know it then, but these were the foundational moments that would shape the gentle, kind-hearted artist who would later invite millions into his world of happy little accidents and almighty mountains. His journey wasn't about becoming a famous painter. It was about sharing the peace he found in the rustle of leaves and the reflection of a sky in still water. As you drift now, imagine that young boy, his heart full of the quiet wonders of his world. Let the gentle sounds of the Florida night, the cricket's song, the distant murmur of the ocean, be your lullaby. Feel the warmth of that simple, loving home and carry that sense of peace with you into your dreams. The story of the artist has just begun, but for now, It's time to rest in the gentle beginning. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking and subscribing for more peaceful tales. Sleep well. Hello, my friend. Take a deep, slow breath in. And now, let it all go. Imagine you can breathe in the salty sea air, and as you exhale, feel the weight of the day just drifting away on the breeze. Tonight, we're going to linger for a while in young Bob's world, a world where the sandy shores of Daytona Beach stretched out into an endless adventure. Picture him now, just 5 or 6 years old, a tiny sprite of a boy, barefoot and absolutely boundless. He's chasing the white foam of the Atlantic as it rushes up to kiss the shore, his laughter mixing with the sound of the waves. The ocean was his very first teacher. It was vast, powerful, and wonderfully forgiving. With each retreating tide, it would erase his footprints from the wet sand, a gentle lesson that nothing lasts forever, but that beauty always, always returns. In the quiet light of dawn, he'd often venture into the salt marshes. There, elegant egrets stood like silent sentinels in the morning mist. Iridescent dragonflies would zip past, their wings catching the first rays of sunlight like tiny living jewels. Bob never tried to catch them. He simply followed, letting their flight inspire shapes and patterns in his young mind, curves and loops that danced like unspoken poems. The mangroves arched high above him, their tangled roots holding onto the earth in a secret embrace, teaching him the quiet, resilient strength of growing right where you're planted. Afternoons were for the pinewoods. The ground there was a soft carpet of fallen needles, as comfortable as a feather bed. He would lie there for hours, just staring up at the canopy as it filtered the sunlight into shifting, emerald patterns on the forest floor. Birds would call from hidden branches, mockingbirds mimicking the sound of the wind, and bright cardinals flashing their crimson feathers like little warnings. In these wild, quiet pockets of nature, Bob felt a profound kinship with the world. He had a deep, intuitive sense that every leaf, every single stone, held a story just waiting to be uncovered. His head wasn't filled with grand plans or worries about the future back then. There was only the pure, unadulterated delight of discovery. The spiral of a seashell became a treasure map leading to untold riches. A weathered piece of driftwood transformed into a mighty sword for imaginary quests against fantasy foes. As the sun began to dip low, painting the sky and the water in breathtaking hues of rose and gold, Bob would finally head for home. His pockets would be full of the day's treasures, a smooth stone, a unique shell, a fallen feather. But his heart was always fuller still. So, let these gentle seaside memories wrap around you now, like a light, comforting shawl on a cool evening. Feel the lingering warmth of the sun-drenched sand on your skin. And as your eyelids begin to feel heavy, we'll prepare to step together into the more structured days of school and the small trials that awaited him there. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey tonight. If you enjoyed this time together, I'd be so grateful if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel for more peaceful stories. Sweet dreams.
Sink a little deeper into your pillow now, where worries dissolve like mist in the morning sun. We're about to travel back in time, moving through Bob's young life into the world of classrooms and chalk-dusted dreams. Imagine this: school in Daytona. Desks in neat rows, under high ceilings that echoed with the sounds of recitations and children's laughter. Bob, a boy with a mop of curly hair and eyes full of curiosity, found that the lessons were like a puzzle, but the pieces didn't always fit his free-spirited shape. Math and history felt like stubborn knots he couldn't quite untangle. His mind would often drift to the window, watching the palm trees sway like old friends waving hello. He wasn't the quickest student when it came to sums and dates, but he excelled in something far more important: kindness. He was the boy who would share his crayons with a shy classmate, the one who would stand up for the quiet ones against playground taunts. His teachers saw his big heart more than they saw his report card. They'd often find him sketching birds in the margins of his notebook instead of taking notes. His imagination taking flight. Then came a day that would etch a scar on him. A day that taught a lesson he would carry forever. He was only 7 years old, spending time in his father's workshop, a place of sawdust and creation. He was working on a stubborn piece of wood when a chisel slipped. In an instant, the sharp blade caught his left index finger, severing the tip clean off. A sharp, sudden pain flared up like a summer storm, but little Bob held steady, his small face pale but his eyes filled with a surprising determination. The doctor worked swiftly, but the piece was lost forever. Wrapped in bandages, Bob returned home not with tears, but with big questions swirling in his mind. Why do accidents happen? How do we find the strength to carry on when things go wrong? In the weeks that followed, he adapted with the quiet grace of a tree bending in the breeze. Holding a pencil felt different, awkward at first. But he practiced and practiced until the awkwardness faded into a new normal. That missing fingertip became his secret badge of honor, a constant, physical reminder that imperfection doesn't dim our inner light. It just shapes it in a unique and beautiful way. His friends, seeing his quiet courage, rallied around him. They brought him drawings and told him jokes, turning what could have been a scary time into a shared adventure of recovery. Through these early stumbles and challenges, Bob's gentle, resilient core only shone brighter. School taught him about structure and rules, but the world outside, with its unexpected twists and turns, taught him about freedom and the strength of the human spirit. So, as you listen, let this tale of quiet strength and resilience settle over you like a soft, warm quilt. Feel that healing warmth spread through your own limbs, and let your mind drift gently onward toward the freedoms and adventures of his teenage years. Thank you for joining me on this journey tonight. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Sweet dreams. Soft, calming music begins and fades into the background. Let your thoughts begin to meander now, just like a gentle river finding its way through rolling hills. Feel your breath become even and steady, a soft anchor for your mind in the gathering quiet. Picture a young man named Bob, now a lanky teenager in the late 1950s, blooming into manhood surrounded by the endless summers of Florida. High school brought with it new rhythms, the buzz of locker-lined halls filled with laughter, the roar of the crowd on football fields alive with cheers. But Bob's truest classroom was the open road. Imagine him pedaling his bicycle through the dawn-lit streets, tossing newspapers onto porches with a practiced flick of his wrist. The early air is crisp, kissed with dew, and the world feels entirely fresh, brimming with possibility. The earnings from his paper route weren't just coins in his pocket. They were comic books and model airplanes, fuel for dreams of soaring through skies far beyond the familiar beach. Evenings would often find him at the pier, fishing rod in hand, his eyes fixed on the lines bobbing on the water's surface. Whether he caught a fish or not didn't really matter. The ritual itself was what soothed him, watching the sun's slow, graceful descent, turning the vast sea into a pool of molten gold. His days were dotted with odd jobs, each one adding a new color to his growing palette of skills. He might be helping out at the local diner or stacking crates at the market. Through each task, he learned the value of a steady hand and discovered the deep satisfaction of a job well done. In the evenings, friends would gather for bonfires on the shore. Their stories would crackle just like the flames, filled with tales of first crushes and news of far-off wars heard on the radio. Bob was often the listener, absorbing the world around him. He didn't speak much, but his low, rumbling laugh and his calm, steady presence made him a harbor for his friends. And yet, a subtle restlessness began to stir within him, like the first winds before a squall. The beach, which once felt boundless and infinite, now seemed to whisper of horizons he had yet to see. At 18, the wider world started to tug at him. Drafts and duties were calling young men to serve their country. Bob felt that puller, compelling mixture of duty and a deep-seated curiosity. He was ready to trade the sandy paths of his youth for the paved roads of the future. Now, imagine yourself on that bicycle, feeling the wind in your hair, watching the road unfold softly before you. Allow these youthful trails to lull you deeper into a state of peace, as we gently turn our thoughts toward the structured skies of service. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you found this peaceful, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories. It helps more than you know. Rest easy now, dear one. Let your body feel as heavy and secure as an anchor in calm, still waters. We're going to travel back in time together, soaring forward to the year 1961. Imagine a young man named Bob, fresh-faced at just 19 years old. He's made a big decision, trading his civilian freedoms for the distinguished wings of the U.S. Air Force. His journey begins in Orlando, Florida, where he enlists and boards a bus headed north. His destination? Lockland Air Force Base in Texas. Picture this vast landscape, wide-open plains stretching out under an unyielding sun. The horizon looking like an endless canvas painted just for him. This new world was a stark contrast to the familiar Florida shores he left behind. Basic training was a whirlwind of precision and discipline. Think of dawn runs with a sergeant's commanding voice echoing across the field. Marches that drummed a steady, unwavering rhythm into the feet of young recruits. Bob, with his naturally easy smile, adapted with remarkable speed. The Florida tan he arrived with soon faded under a layer of drillfield dust. He mastered the art of folding blankets into perfect, crisp squares and learned to salute with a snap and a shine that spoke of newfound pride. But even within the strict uniformity of military life, Bob's inherent kindness couldn't be contained. It bloomed in small but significant ways. He was the one who'd discreetly slip an extra canteen of water to a faltering recruit on a long march. The one who'd offer a quiet, comforting word to ease the ache of homesick nights for his comrades. His empathy didn't go unnoticed. As he rose through the ranks, Bob eventually became a drill instructor himself. His voice was firm, as it needed to be, but it was always laced with an undercurrent of understanding. After a fumbled maneuver, instead of harsh criticism, he'd say something like, "We've all stumbled. Let's get it right next time." He saw mistakes not as failures, but as opportunities for growth, turning every error into a moment of encouragement. It's no surprise that his men affectionately called him the Gentle Sergeant. They deeply respected his unique blend of steel and softness, his strength and his compassion. The days blurred into weeks, filled with rigorous inspections and demanding exercises. The relentless Texas heat was like a forge, tempering his resolve and shaping him into a leader. But even in the midst of this intense schedule, Bob found stolen moments for himself. He'd write letters home, his words painting vivid pictures of the starry nights over the barracks. Or the exhilarating thrill of seeing his squadron aligned in perfect formation. The Air Force gave him more than just a uniform. It gave him structure, a powerful sense of purpose, and a feeling of belonging to something much larger than himself. It was a brotherhood, forged in sweat and shared determination. Yet, this highly ordered life also stirred deeper yearnings within him, a craving for color beyond the endless sea of khaki, a desire for creation amidst the strict regimen. A new chapter was waiting to be written. Feel that steady, marching rhythm in your own chest now. Notice how it's slowing, softening into a gentle, lullaby pace. Let that calm wash over you. As we prepare to leave the Texas plains behind and venture north together. Two lands of ice, inspiration, and a whole new kind of creation. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more. It truly helps, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Can you feel that? It's the chill of adventure, like a cool breeze on a hot day, a sip of fresh mountain air. Let it wash over you as we journey back to the mid-1960s. Following a young man named Bob, his path took him from the sun-scorched earth of Texas all the way to Eielson Air Force Base in Alaska. They call it the last frontier for a reason. It's a land of raw, untamed wonder. Imagine stepping off a plane into the grip of a true Alaskan winter. The air is so cold it feels sharp, like a blade against your skin. Snow blankets everything, a pristine, endless white. The base itself was a hive of activity. Giant cargo planes thundered down runways, their engines roaring against the silence. Airmen, bundled up like explorers, moved with purpose, their breath pluming in the frigid air. Bob's duties were demanding. He was responsible for overseeing supplies and training crews for intense Arctic operations. The shifts were long, often spent in sub-zero temperatures that tested your endurance to its absolute limit. But the real reward, the true gift of Alaska, wasn't found in the barracks or on the flight line. It was in the landscape itself. Picture it, colossal mountains looming on the horizon like ancient, sleeping giants. Rivers, the color of glacier blue, carved silent paths through the frozen valleys. And at night, oh, the nights, the northern lights would appear, weaving shimmering green veils across a velvet sky. It was a cosmic ballet, nature's own masterpiece, painted across the darkness, and Bob had a front row seat every single night. Life in the barracks could be quiet, even a little monotonous. But it was in that quiet stillness that a secret passion began to flicker to life. One day, in the base library, a book on oil painting caught his eye. As he flipped through the pages, he saw landscapes that mirrored the breathtaking views just outside his window. Something clicked. He started with scavenged supplies. A scrap piece of board became his canvas. He found a few tubes of cheap paint. His first strokes were hesitant, almost shy. As he tried to capture the fluffy clouds resting on the mountain peaks, the delicate fan of birch branches stark against the snow. It was more than just a hobby. It was therapy. The isolation of the far north began to melt away, replaced by the creative flow of brush on board. Soon, word of his hidden talent spread among his comrades. His small corner of the barracks became a gathering place in the evenings. Men would cluster around his flickering lamp, watching in quiet awe as vibrant colors bloomed under his touch, chasing away the long Arctic shadows. "That's magic, Bob," one of them said one night. In that simple praise, a seed of confidence was planted, a seed that would grow for the rest of his life. Alaska taught him patience, the kind of patience you learn from watching the slow, deliberate thaw of spring, or from the quiet, unwavering vigil of an evergreen tree through the winter. It's a lesson about enduring, about finding beauty in the stillness. So, for a moment, let's wrap ourselves in that northern hush. Imagine snowflakes melting on your eyelashes, the profound silence of a world asleep under a blanket of white. As we let that feeling settle, we'll get ready to explore what came next for Bob, the years of service that followed, and the quiet ties of the heart that shaped his journey. Thank you so much for joining me on this chapter of the story. If you're enjoying this journey, do UNT forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you do UNT miss what's coming next. We'll see you in the next video. Alright everyone, find a comfortable spot, close your eyes if you'd like, and let's begin this journey together. Take a soft, gentle breath in, and as you exhale, let it carry you back in time, weaving you into warmer, cherished memories. Imagine the life of a man named Bob. For over 2 decades, he served in the Air Force. His life wasn't just one single story, but layers upon layers, like a beautiful, sprawling landscape. There were the high peaks of duty and honor, softened by the quiet, personal valleys of family life. Let's travel back to the late 1960s. Picture the crisp, vast chill of Alaska. It was there that Bob met Vivian, a warm, radiant light that could melt the Alaskan frost. Their love story wasn't one of grand, cinematic gestures, but of quiet, profound connection. They exchanged their wedding vows under a vast canopy of stars, promising to be each other's steady companion through all the transient postings and uncertainties that military life brings. Soon, their world grew. In 1966, their son, Stephen, was born, a little bundle of boundless curiosity with his father's observant eyes. Life, for Bob, became a delicate dance. He balanced the strict discipline of military drills with the gentle rhythm of diaper changes. He taught young Stephen the simple joy of skipping stones across the glassy surfaces of frozen ponds, each ripple a shared moment. Their life was a map of movement, shuttling between bases. There was the profound isolation of Fairbanks, contrasted with sunny visits to Florida, where family stories were told to the sound of ocean waves. Through it all, Vivian's laughter was the music that filled every temporary house, turning it into a home. Her unwavering support was the anchor that held firm, especially during the long storms of deployment. The 1970s ushered in a new chapter, bringing more responsibilities and higher ranks. Bob's leadership was recognized with medals, his legendary calm under pressure becoming a hallmark of his service. He was the steady hand in turbulent times. But even a man of such discipline needs a sanctuary. For Bob, that refuge was painting. In the quiet solitude of the night, long after the day's duties were done, he would lose himself in his art. He layered vibrant pigments onto canvas, transforming simple barracks sketches into windows of peace, painting skies so vast you could feel the freedom in them. This wasn't a passion he kept to himself. He shared it with Stephen. Imagine those moments, a father's large hand guiding his son's tiny one as it gripped a brush. Their bond strengthening with every stroke of phthalo blue. Of course, life presented its challenges. Deployments stretched into long, agonizing months. The ache of distance was a constant, unwelcome guest. But Bob held on to a powerful philosophy, one he lived by and passed on to his son. There are no mistakes, only opportunities for growth, for learning, for a new beginning. By 1981, after 20 dedicated years, the time for retirement beckoned. Bob received his honorable discharge, folding away the uniform that had defined so much of his life. But the lessons it taught him, discipline, resilience, integrity, they didn't get folded away. They lingered, infused into every aspect of his new life, especially into every deliberate stroke of his paintbrush. So now, as we continue to breathe softly, let's feel these threads of family, of love, of duty and passion. Feel how they warm you, how they intertwine to create a rich and beautiful tapestry of a life well lived. Let these memories guide us, just as they guided Bob, toward the hopeful horizon of new beginnings. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. If this story resonated with you, Please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel for more content like this. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, take care. Imagine a leaf just drifting on a calm, quiet stream. That's the feeling we're chasing today. The same one Bob Ross embraced after he retired from the Air Force in 1981. He settled in a town called Muncie, Indiana, true piece of the American heartland, surrounded by cornfields and friendly waves from neighbors. Life slowed down, but it wasn't without its shadows. After his first wife, Vivian, passed away in the late 80s, a quiet sadness settled in. But Bob wasn't one to stay in the darkness. He found comfort and companionship with Jane, a kind soul, and later he shared his life and countless sunrises with Anne. Through it all, his son Stephen was right there by his side, a quiet, steady presence. To fill his days, Bob did what he loved most. He taught painting. He started holding workshops in local community halls. Picture it, a circle of easels, a crowd of eager but nervous beginners, and Bob in the middle, a calm and encouraging guide. He'd show them the wet and wet technique he'd learned, his voice a soft murmur, just let it flow. He had this incredible ability to turn someone's sphere of a blank canvas into a moment of pure triumph. Word of this gentle teacher with the magic brush started to spread. It wasn't loud, just a ripple, but it reached the right people. Producers at the local public television station, WIPB. They were looking for new local talent. In 1983, they reached out and invited him to shoot a pilot for a show they wanted to call The Joy of Painting. Bob was hesitant at first. He was a painter, a teacher, not a TV star. But he eventually agreed. The set they built was simple but cozy, designed to look like a warm attic, with painted forests on the walls. And there he was, Bob, with his signature perm and a comfortable flannel shirt, holding his palette, ready to create. On January 3, 1983, the very first episode aired. 4:30 hypnotic minutes. Viewers watched as a snowy mountain landscape appeared on the canvas, seemingly out of nowhere. His voice, that legendary, velvety soft voice, was like a lullaby. It wasn't just a painting lesson, it was an invitation. "We're gonna have a good time," he promised. And people listened. They didn't just watch, they felt it. Viewers across the country felt their stress melt away. Letters started pouring in, thousands of them, thanking him for the peace he brought into their homes. Soon, the show was syndicated, spreading that wave of serenity from coast to coast. Through all the fame and success, Bob Ross never changed. He remained that humble, funny, down-to-earth guy from Muncie. He wasn't just teaching people how to paint happy little trees. He was a beacon of uncomplicated joy in a world that often felt too complicated. He showed us that anyone could create something beautiful, and that the real joy was in the process itself. So, let's step into that warm studio glow, feel the lightness of the brush in our hands. And remember the man who taught us that there are no mistakes, just happy accidents. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into Bob's world. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a like and consider subscribing for more. It really helps the channel, and I'd love to see you again. Video opens with gentle, ambient music and a soft focus shot of a blank canvas or a palette with colors being mixed. Hello, and welcome. Let's take a moment, just for ourselves. Close your eyes for a second, if you can, and just breathe. Inhale, calm. Exhale the noise. Tonight, we're going to let serenity seep in, coloring our dreams in the softest hues. Do you remember him? That gentle voice, that iconic afro, the easel standing ready. Through the 1980s and 90s, for millions of people, the joy of painting wasn't just a TV show. It was a ritual, a refuge. For 30 minutes at a time, across more than 400 episodes, Bob Ross invited us into a world of quiet mountains, lush meadows, and misty dawns. It was a half-hour meditation guided by the swish of a brush. His 2-inch brush was like a magic wand. With a few deft strokes, it would dance across the canvas, and a sky of brilliant ultramarine blue would bloom into existence. With a flick of a fan brush, a whole forest of happy little trees would rise up, each one unique, each one with its own story. He'd load his painting knife with titanium white, and with a chuckle, he'd tell us to beat the devil out of it before tapping in clouds that puffed into place without any pretense or fuss. Everything was so simple, so achievable. But it was his wisdom, woven so seamlessly through each painting, that truly captured our hearts. Remember his most famous mantra: "We don't make mistakes, just happy accidents." In Bob's world, a stray smudge wasn't a disaster. It was an opportunity. A slip of the hand could suddenly become a rustic little cabin tucked away in the woods. An accidental spill of color could be guided into a meandering stream, sparkling in the sunlight. He taught us that imperfection was just another word for potential. He saw the world through the lens of nature's parables. He'd talk about a lone tree standing strong against the wind, reminding us of our own resilience in the face of gales. He'd paint a river, patiently carving its way through stone, a quiet lesson in persistence. He made us feel that we, too, were a part of this vast, beautiful, and resilient natural world. And people responded. Letters poured in from every walk of life. Shut-ins who found a window to the outside world, stressed-out professionals who unwound to the gentle rhythm of his voice and his brush. He created a community of quiet souls, all connected by the shared experience of watching a blank canvas transform into a place of peace. Offset, Bob's life mirrored the world he painted. He was a man who found joy in the small things. He rescued injured squirrels and nursed baby owls back to health. He tended his garden with the same care and attention he gave to his canvases. His world was one of kindness. He published books and sold painting kits, extending his reach, but he actively shunned the spotlight of stardom. He drove a simple van and, incredibly, made it a point to personally reply to every single fan letter he received. He wanted that personal connection. His little phrases, those Bobisms, became part of our collective comfort language. "Everyone needs a friend," he'd say as he painted a second tree next to a lonely one. "This is your world. You can shape it however you want. And perhaps the most poignant of all, everyone needs a happy place." He gave us the tools to find our own. Bob faced his own personal tides. Of course, he endured the profound loss of his wife, Jane, yet found new light and partnership with his second wife, Anne. Through it all, his core belief held firm. Art is a balm for the bruised soul. It's a way to process, to heal, to find a little bit of light in the darkness. In our often turbulent and chaotic times, his legacy of relentless positivity feels more important than ever. He was a quiet whisper of calm against the roaring noise of the world, anchoring millions with the simple promise that everything was going to be okay. So, as we close, imagine you're standing at your own easel. Imagine blending your own colors. See how the imperfections can be transformed into something beautiful. Let the gentle rhythm of the brush on canvas lull you toward a quiet, peaceful place. Let your mind drift to the canvas's quiet close. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you enjoyed this little journey, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more moments of calm. Until next time, be well. Hello, gentle souls, and welcome back. Let's take a quiet moment together, shall we? As the day winds down and the world outside begins to hush, let's find a comfortable spot and breathe. Inhale slowly. And now, just as softly, exhale, letting go of the day's worries, like a brush rinsing clean in the water. Tonight, I want to share a story with you. A story about a man who taught us not just how to paint, but how to see the world with a kinder eye. A man named Bob Ross. His journey on this earth was filled with happy little trees and almighty mountains. But it, too, had its seasons. In his later years, in 1994, Bob was diagnosed with lymphoma. He faced this new challenge much like he faced a blank canvas. With quiet resolve and a gentle heart, he continued to find solace in his art, his brushes becoming extensions of his enduring spirit, painting right until the very end. He wasn't alone. His beloved wife, Anne, and his son, Stephen, were his constant anchors, his steadfast companions. Together, they cherished the simple, beautiful moments that life offered. Imagine them, sitting together, watching the sun paint the sky in fiery oranges and soft purples, a live masterpiece. Bob spent much of his time reading and responding to letters from people like you and me, people whose lives he had touched. He sent back letters filled with thanks and encouragement, spreading his signature kindness one stamp at a time. On July 4, 1995, at the age of just 52, Bob Ross peacefully laid down his brush for the last time. He departed from this world, but his spirit, his legacy, was just getting started. It was a legacy unbound by earthly things. He left behind an incredible treasure, trove tens of thousands of paintings, and in a final, beautiful act of generosity, many of these were gifted away. He famously shunned the commercialization of his art, believing its true value was in the joy of creation, not the price tag. For Bob, art was a gift to be shared freely. In the wake of his passing, a wave of love and tribute swelled across the globe. Television stations ran marathon broadcasts of the joy of painting, his soothing voice once again filling living rooms and bringing comfort to millions. Fans, inspired by his teachings, gathered to paint his iconic happy trees, their canvases a collective homage to the master. It was a beautiful sight, a forest of gratitude growing in his memory. And today, his presence is more vibrant than ever. You can stream his episodes anytime, his voice a timeless guide to creativity and calm. Certified Ross instructors all over the world continue to teach his wet and wet technique, ensuring that the flow of joy and discovery continues for new generations. In Muncie, Indiana, a museum now stands where his studio once was, a place where memories are preserved, where you can walk through the very rooms where the magic happened. But Bob's greatest lesson wasn't about mixing Prussian blue with titanium white. It was that the real joy lies in the making, in the process itself. He taught us that kindness is the truest, most vibrant color on our palette. He showed us that there are no mistakes, just happy accidents, unexpected opportunities to create something new and wonderful. He gave us permission to be gentle with ourselves, to embrace the journey, and to find beauty in imperfection. So now, as we prepare for rest, let's close our eyes and visit his world. Can you see it? A stand of happy little trees swaying in a gentle breeze that you create in your mind. See the still, clear lake, so perfect it mirrors the twinkling stars in the night sky above. Feel any remaining worries begin to blur, softening at the edges like mist over a quiet mountain. Allow the gentle river of sleep to guide you, to carry you safely home to a place of peace. Thank you for sharing this quiet dream with me tonight. I hope you feel a little lighter, a little calmer. May your dreams be filled with happy little visions, and may they guard your rest until the morning comes. Good night, and as Bob would say, paint peacefully.